Rise and shine, it's 7 a.m. and you are waking up to Ireland M on Virgin Media 1 and it's a bit chilly.
It is just slightly chilly. Coming up on the show today, we have got acclaimed authors, epidermal experts and some cosy cooking, alliteration all the way as well this morning. Just keep it going.
A Vizio show. Coming up later on, we're going to talk to the multi-award-winning author that has outsold J.K. Rowling to the top of the book charts. Ian Rankin is going to be dropping by.
Plus, Jennifer Rock, she's going to be here with her top tips to help your skin battle the elements. As you can see, it's cold this winter.
All the help we can get. Now, after the shocking alleged assault of a child at an under-9s hurling match in Tipperary, we're going to discuss the aggressive sideline culture in the GAA.
We'd love to hear from you on that one as well. If you are, if you've got kids that are involved in this and what you've seen, 0896 111
Even it's about inclusion. And are you finding that sport is getting too serious for kids and, your young children are not getting picked? Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we really would. Now, Deric is live in Carlow this morning. Deric, lovely to see you. Are we going to see an improvement in the weather today?
Yes, good morning team, we're live here down in County Carlow. Quite a misty, quite a foggy start out there this morning, but in fact we had some really nice sunshine to make up for all that rain, all those showers we had out over the last few days. So an improving picture out there today. But we'll come down here to Bagenalstown because we're off to meet a man called John Hanlon. He is the winning trainer of Hewick, who scooped the American Grand National over in New Jersey at the weekend. There is great excitement down here in County Carlow. He only stepped off the plane from JFK yesterday. He actually came out in his socks to offer us a cup of tea. So we've got the first live interview with him at 7:45 this morning.
Wow, unbelievable, Deric. Look forward to that. That's amazing.
Out in his socks. Yeah. That's the sort of fella Deric will take the shoes off now. He'll be in his socks all day.
The American Grand National. Some gone.
It is, yeah. Right now, it's time to go over to the Virgin Media News Hub and say good morning for the first time to Rob O'Hanrahan.
Thanks, Muireann. Good morning. Jerry the Monk Hutch is due to go on trial at the Special Criminal Court today over the Regency Hotel attack 6 years ago. David Byrne was shot dead in the lobby of the hotel in Dublin as gunmen opened fire during a boxing weigh-in on February 5th, 2016. 59-year-old Jerry Hutch has been charged with his murder. Two others are also due to stand trial, accused of helping a criminal gang by providing it with access to motor vehicles. The trial is due to get underway at the non-jury court at 11 a.m. A heightened security operation will be in place at the Criminal Court of Justice. The Housing Minister is set to recommend a temporary ban on evictions when the Cabinet meets this morning. Coalition leaders discussed the matter last night. Our news correspondent Richard Chambers has more.
Well, this is something the government has been urged to consider for quite some time. A temporary ban on evictions over the course of the winter will go to Cabinet this morning, having been discussed by coalition leaders last night. It will extend until the end of March, and there are a couple of caveats or loopholes to it. If you've already been served with a notice to quit, you will still have to honour that over the course of the moratorium. Also, if you engage in antisocial or criminal behaviour over the moratorium period, you'll still be eligible to have your tenancy ended, as well as that if you don't willfully pay your rent over that period too. Now, landlords have expressed some concern about this. They say that it will rush or hurry up the exodus of landlords from the market. They also say there could be a glut of evictions at the end of March. But advocacy groups have said that this is an essential piece of legislation, that it is important that this is enacted because they say that there will be a real risk otherwise of families ending up in homelessness or sleeping rough, in fact, because there is such a squeeze on emergency accommodation at this point. Not all smooth sailing to get to this point. There was back and forth between ministers and coalition leaders about whether or not this was the right thing to do constitutionally, but it does appear that it will be in place, although when exactly it starts is yet to be confirmed.
Richard Chambers reporting there. Now, UK Prime Minister Liz Truss has apologised and admitted her government made mistakes after the announcement of economic measures in last month's mini-budget spooked the financial markets. Her comments came as the UK's new Chancellor Jeremy Hunt ripped up the government's economic plan on Monday, dramatically reversing most of the tax cuts and spending plans announced less than a month ago. The move raises more questions about how long the new Prime Minister can stay in office, though she has insisted she will battle on.
What I'm focused on is delivering for the British public. Now, I recognise we have made mistakes. I'm sorry for those mistakes, but I've fixed the mistakes. I've appointed a new Chancellor. We have restored economic stability and fiscal discipline. And what I now want to do is go on and deliver for the public. We were elected on the 2019 manifesto. I'm determined to deliver on that.
At least 13 people have died after a Russian warplane crashed in a residential area in the port of Yeysk on the Sea of Azov. A Su-34 bomber came down after one of its engines caught fire during takeoff, according to the Russian Defence Ministry. Local authorities said that the massive blaze engulfed several floors of a 9-storey apartment building, and at least 17 apartments were affected. Meanwhile, rescue and recovery operations are continuing in Ukraine after Russian drones struck a number of cities. At least 8 people were killed in the attacks, 4 in the capital Kyiv and 4 in Sumy.
A new form of attack as Russia's war in Ukraine rages on. On Monday, the Ukrainian capital Kyiv was struck from all sides with dozens of kamikaze drones. According to the government, critical infrastructure was hit in the Kyiv, Dnipro and Sumy regions, with electricity cut in hundreds of towns and villages. The strikes also hit civilian infrastructure, including universities, bars and restaurants. Footage from Ukrainian patrol police showed some of the desperate efforts to shoot down the drones before they could inflict any damage. Previous Russian airstrikes on Kyiv were mostly with missiles, and it's feared that this shift to drones could become more common. Claire Regan, Virgin Media News.
The United States and Mexico say they are preparing a UN resolution that would authorise an international mission to help improve security in Haiti. The Haitian government issued a distress call for the people of the crisis-racked nation as thousands across the country organised protests demanding the resignation of the country's Prime Minister. The US and Mexico announced the plans at an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council on Monday. Russia and China have raised questions about the proposal.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Thank you very much, Marie, and a very good morning to you at home or if you're indeed streaming online on the player. We're coming to you live here from Bangorstown in County Carlow, and we're down here for a special reason this morning because we're off to meet John Hanlon. He is the winning trainer of Hewick, who scooped the American Grand National at the weekend. So we've got his first live Irish interview coming your way at 7:45 this morning, so do hang with us for that. Anyway, let's take an opening look at weather together now with Oisin Moore on cameras, and I have to say it is quite a misty, quite a foggy and indeed quite a dark start out there this morning, especially through parts of Carlow. Elsewhere it is mainly dry and settled, so good news following all that wind and rain we've had over the last few days in that easterly airflow. Now right across this afternoon, in fact, an improving day on the cards. It's going to be that mixture of sunshine and scattered showers, but all eyes really turning to those winds once again, because this time they're veering to the east-southeast. They will be fresh to strong at times, but elsewhere a pretty decent day in store. Top valleys a little bit up to at 11 to 16 degrees. Finally then tonight we're going to see more problems feed in from the southwest, because we do have a system pushing up across the country tracking in that northeasterly direction. Now it will bring with it some very heavy and persistent rain. We could see the odd risk of spot flooding once again, and that ground already pretty saturated down south because of all that heavy rain we had at the weekend. So we could be looking at more of the wet stuff, more of that flooding on the cards as we edge our way into your Wednesday morning, with overnight lows back to 5 to 11 degrees. So that's how we're shaping up here in a foggy Bangorstown in County Carlow this morning. We catch again back live at 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote. Now, coming up on the show, tensions on the pitch. We discuss if a culture change is needed on GAA sidelines.
Yeah, it's something we want to hear from you as well. 0896 111 111. Is this something that you've seen on your local matches? Is it getting to the stage where you feel your kids are being sidelined? Let us know. We'd love to hear.
Yeah.
We're going to be discussing after the break. It's great to have you back. The alleged assault of a 9-year-old boy during a hurling blitz has sent ripples through the GAA community.
Here to discuss this and the impact sideline aggression is having on children is Shane Stapleton from ourgame.ie, and from the Irish Times we've got Jen Hogan as well. Good morning to you both. Jen, we'll be with you in just 1 minute, but Shane, if you could take us through this alleged incident and what's alleged to have happened.
Yeah, as you said, alleged is the key word here. So in Dr. Morris Park in Thurles over the weekend, there was an underage blitz, and Gardaí and Munster GAA are investigating an incident whereby an adult is supposed to have come in off the sideline and grabbed an under-9 player by the throat. And as you said, it's alleged, but it's pretty ghastly stuff, and assuming that there is a conviction on the basis of that, it's a really sad state of affairs that this would happen at an underage game where essentially it's supposed to be about fun.
Yeah, exactly. And a blitz is particularly all about fun. But we're seeing a lot of this in the GAA at the minute. There's a lot more incidents, and particularly around referees. Is this a problem? Is this getting worse in the GAA, or has it just been highlighted more?
Well, I'd say it definitely feels like it's getting worse because the amount of coverage is across the board. We've more media than we've ever had before, and the amount of video clips that we've seen. I mean, last year it looked like a bit of a riot on the sideline at a Wicklow underage game. We saw incidents with people coming in off the sideline on leash. We've seen a 96-week ban recently issued by Wexford GAA. We've seen games abandoned in Mayo underage and also in Kerry. So that's obviously very terrible stuff. But referee abuse has always existed. Now, coming in and alleged assaults of 9-year-old children, that feels like a different level altogether.
It really does, because I know that we sit there. We were discussing this morning, and you're like, when you were watching GAA, you've seen things.
And a dad came and attacked a fellow with the Lions flag. Do you know what I mean? Like, but back then there was no social media, and things got passed off because I think his son was getting the head boxed off him by another player. So. But it's good that these social media clips are coming out there, and it's good that it's been highlighted and it's been stamped out, but I don't think this is anything new, personally.
But it's just, isn't this meant to be fun up to a certain level? Like, are we meant to be having 7- and 8-year-olds now who are thinking that they are inter-county players? Is this the level we're expecting from under-9, Shane?
I don't think we are, but like we do. There are parents out there who think that their little Johnny or Sally, is out to win the World Cup and they're living vicariously through them. And there are some parents who take it over the line. But like GAA is a microcosm of society. If this is happening in GAA, it's happening elsewhere too. If you look at what happened in England earlier this month, so the FA, they announced that 380 bans happened because of match abuse towards referees, both physical and verbal, in the previous year. 380 bans, that's incredible. And in the Merseyside Youth Football League, in protest at all of this happening, there was a round of fixtures that were called off for an entire weekend. That was early in October. So this isn't just a problem in GAA. I'd imagine it's happening in other sports as well. It's certainly happening in underage soccer as well. Maybe not that exact type of incident.
Yeah.
But this is happening.
And parents and everybody's getting so invested in it as well. I think we should bring in Jen Hogan here at the minute. Jen, you wrote an article on this last week and spoke to a lot of parents whose children are... the parents are probably thinking that they want to get their kids out of this sport because of what they're seeing on the sidelines with some of the violence, but also sometimes just not even being picked. Where's the fun gone in sport?
Yeah, exclusion seems to become a big problem in children's sport. This idea of kids not being considered good enough and left sitting on the sidelines, and does seem to be happening across the board. I am going to have to admit, we had so many people get in touch with us both before the piece went out and after the piece went out, and the GAA came up repeatedly here, a kind of a practice of bringing younger children up and playing them ahead of actual age children because it was so important to win the match. So there's an awful lot of kids really distressed, a lot of parents really upset, not sure how to help their children, because somehow instead of fun and instead of keeping children engaged and actively involved in sport, winning, it's all become about winning, even at under 12 level.
Jen, I'm just wondering, because I remember certainly when I was playing back in the day, there was, and I'm talking, under 10s and everything, it was the first team, second team, third team, fourth team, and you were put on according to your ability. And it wasn't a state of affairs where it was like X Factor and everyone gets a medal and everyone's great. There's always been a competitive nature to sport, and do you not think it's important for that to be instilled in children? You don't just get a medal because you take part.
Well, I think participation is really important. But I mean, I'm a huge fan of competitive sports, and it is. I think children want to win. Everybody wants to win, but I think we've lost sight of what success looks like. And ideally, we would have as many involved in sport for as long as possible. If you have a situation where children can't even get to play, where they're left on the sidelines, where their feelings of, where their self-worth is destroyed, their confidence is destroyed, they're likely to walk away from it. You're knocking down children at a very young age. They're going to miss out on the long-term, lifelong benefits of sport. So competition is important, but children are, they do want to win. Adults want to, people want to win, but winning at all costs, that's a different story altogether.
So what sort of examples of stories did you hear from some of the parents, Jen?
So we had, one of the main stories that was featured was the parents of an under 12-year-old player who had togged out and kitted out for his match, and was left on the sidelines for the entirety. And he was given a medal because the team all got a medal, but he ended up vomiting all night because he was so stressed about going into school on the Monday, knowing that he never got a chance to play. But he went back and he tried again, and the same sort of thing happened. We had parents get in touch to say that they had this idea of turning up for the match, turning up for training, always standing there. But when push came to shove, younger players being brought up from other teams, from younger teams, and being played ahead of the players that were actually on the pitch, and exercise, I suppose, and humiliation really for young children. And then there were parents of children with additional needs, perhaps in mainstream education, who were never, maybe had coordination difficulty. I'll use dyspraxia, for example, weren't ever going to perhaps be starting off anyway as capable on the pitch as their peers, and not even getting a chance because winning was more important than inclusion. Inclusion seems to be this kind of buzzword, but we're not necessarily seeing it happen on the pitch. And for every child to get involved and every child to have a chance, every child, if they need a chance to play, I mean, that's really important. And not tokenism, actually get a chance to play. I mean, Shane Smith, who spoke to me for it, is a sports psychologist, and his argument was that every child should have an equal amount of time on the pitch and no child should always be the sub. And there's huge merit in that because it's a team sport and every child needs to get that chance to play and feel valued and feel part of a team.
Yeah. I think something like rolling substitutions or...
There's a lot to be said for that because sport is where inclusion happens. It's where you're meant to learn some social skills when it comes to sport, especially when it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. So is a level of competitiveness... Like this under-9s, it's kind of blowing my mind that an adult would go on and do this because he was angry at a blitz.
That level, right, so when you're having it at that age group, I think every player should be given an opportunity to play. Like when I was a young fella, at times I was left on the bench and at times
me too.
People younger than me were playing. So, okay, so that's tough. And every kid up to a certain age level, I'm not going to decide what the age level is here live on TV, but they should be guaranteed a certain amount of game time and should start the next game, that you don't start a certain amount of games on the bench. But there's also a lot of resilience that you learn in sport. Because, you don't win at life all the time automatically, and someone doesn't always hand you, like the keys to a house or the keys to a car or a good job or all this kind of stuff. And I would talk to teachers, like most of my siblings are all teachers, and they would say that maybe that the resilience levels isn't there in kids the way it used to be anymore, and at least you learn some of the hard knocks of life in sport. Like, it's not the PC answer. I'd love to be Mr. Brightside and say we should all, get our perfect game time and we should all succeed and all that kind of stuff. But there are hard lessons of life learned in sport. And I think in too many other areas you don't learn them. That doesn't make any of the horrible stuff we talked about okay.
Yeah.
But you do have to learn some hard lessons in life somewhere. I think sport, which teaches that bit of resilience, that teaches that bit of teamwork, there's so much good about the GAA that I certainly wouldn't be one for just hammering them. But of course, I think across the board, we need to look at measures that will very practically deal with this. I see some clubs doing club conduct workshops. And this happened in Wexford GAA after what happened with those 96-week bans.
Yeah.
Should we look at silent sidelines, especially for underage?
Yeah.
I've also suggested after the referee abuse, maybe referees should take it upon themselves to wear GoPros, that they have that option. So at least if someone comes in off the sideline and you're a person stupid enough to come in and think about assaulting a referee verbally or otherwise, it's caught on camera. It's a deterrent.
Yeah.
It's something practical. It won't solve everything. But why not have it? What's the downside?
Well, I mean, the silent sidelines, there is going to have to be something brought in by the GAA. There's something going to have to be brought in. We're seeing with soccer teams as well. And listen, I think it's going to be something that's really interesting because I could see even something that you said, Jen was kind of shaking her head there, that, this inclusion and kids, it's a really tricky one because coaches are there given up their spare time. They're there and they're trying to do their best.
Why was Jen shaking her head? What was wrong, Jen?
Jen shaking her head. That's not how resilience works. You do not build up children's resilience by knocking them down, destroying their self-worth and their sense of self-esteem. Resilience works by building children up so they can cope with the difficult things that come to them in life. And knocking them down like this and turning them off sport, all you're doing is removing them from sport altogether, which is what has happened in a lot of the cases, because exclusion got so bad that the parents took their children out of sport altogether for their own mental health.
But Shane, you're not saying that.
That's not building resilience.
No, I don't think...
That's not how resilience works.
But you're not saying that you exclude them once
No,
they're not
and if Jen is suggesting I am, that's hijacking my point and twisting it a little bit. That's certainly not what I said. But I'm saying within sport, you do learn the lessons of life. For example, you don't always win at everything. That's very separate to what I also said, which is up to a certain age level, players certainly should get guaranteed amount of game time.
Absolutely. Listen, and we'd love to hear from people at home this. 0896 111 111. I mean, it's such a big topic because sport does so much good. And as you say, you learn to win graciously and lose graciously, but also where's that fine balance of giving everybody a chance? And really comes down to, well, it comes down to kind of, what's winning for a club? Is it going and lifting a trophy at the weekend?
Yeah.
Or is it actually having more players coming into the club every week,
people who want
up
to be
until
there and
under
happy.
18s?
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, Shane Stapleton, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and Jen Hogan, of course, journalist with the Irish Times.
Thank you both so much. It's been great to have you in studio. I hate when that happens over Skype. It's better when they're beside each other.
But it's something that I'm really torn on because I feel I saw both sides of it growing up.
I can imagine that you did, and he'll have lots to talk about when we get to the controversy. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We're going to start with the Irish Times. Its headline, plan for ban on winter evictions to last until March. The Cabinet is expected to approve a ban on new evictions lasting until next March when it meets this morning, despite misgivings about the measure amongst some in Fine Gael.
The Daily Mail leads with a similar headline, evictions ban in 2 weeks.
Developers lure farmers with special land deal to build homes. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. One of the country's largest home builders wants to entice farmers into partnerships that may see them get higher than normal prices for land.
The Examiner leads with tight security for the Monk's trial. One of the biggest ever gangland trials in Ireland is set to start today as the state opens its case against Jerry the Monk Hutch for the murder that ignited the Kinahan-Hutch feud.
The Mirror's front page goes with a very similar headline. It says, Monk in the dock.
Star leads with the same story. Gloves are off. Dowdall and Dad jailed for Regency. Now he'll tell all.
And our final paper this morning, the Herald, goes with the same. It's poison the hood, is what it says there. So there are your front pages. We were going through some of those stories very shortly, but we were just talking about aggression when it comes to GAA and what needs to be done about it after an alleged assault of a 9-year-old at the weekend at a blitz in Tipperary by an adult during a blitz. And we're getting quite a few messages on this one.
We knew this was going to kick up a lot of text messages because it's not even just the aggression on the sidelines. It also comes into where's the fun gone? In sport, in underage sport anymore. And is sport about inclusion and giving everybody a go, or is sport about winning?
And also, I don't think we talked about it, but the pressure at underage to decide which sport you're going to choose. I remember talking to...
I agree,
I remember talking to Paul O'Connell about this, and he said the craziest thing is like kids under 10 being told rugby is your main sport, and he's like, they should be playing every sport if they want to.
A big believer in that.
Yeah.
Big believer in that. But you see the GAA clubs, the rugby clubs, the soccer clubs, they all
like,
want them
decide.
to put... And it's a really difficult one for parents at the minute with this as well. The issue here is that kids are being told by parents that they can do whatever they want. Not every kid can be Ronaldo, so they should have realistic goals. And I do agree that...
He couldn't read out because that text message actually said not every kid can be a Tommy Bow or Ronaldo. And he was he hadn't pre-read it and he was like, oh no, don't say my name there.
I spent most of my early days in the GAA on the sidelines. Honestly, I was always a sub, and I always remember going home in the car with my dad, real upset that I didn't get picked or I wasn't getting passed or I wasn't... But I do believe what Shane was saying there, that you build a resilience and you learn at a young age that sometimes things don't always go your way and you have to deal with it. And I actually, looking at Jen's article, I kind of think that some of her things was that myself and my husband would love him to quit. This has been going on and we would like him to quit. He is 12. Like, it's the parents trying to take him out rather than the kid.
But they're looking at a child, and in that article, that 12-year-old wants to quit because he's never getting picked. His younger brother, who's like number under 9s, is getting picked for under 12s, and he's being left out.
Like, you deal with this as a kid. They're incredible. Like, they're so resilient. Anyway, keep text coming in. We're going to discuss that later.
Love to hear from you. It's 089 611 111. Now, we've got lots of messages on that. We're going to get back to them. But we're going to talk about a different story that was making front lines recently, despite being purchased for a mere €850. Wow. Your parents will be mad at this one. They love their horses. Carlow trained horse Hewick scooped an incredible €160,000 top prize when he emerged victorious at the American Grand National.
Return. Is it? Deric is joined now by the Hewick's trainer, John Hanlon. Deric, take it away.
Yes, good morning, guys. We're down here in the winning yard of the trainer of the American Grand National, John Hanlon. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Congratulations. Good morning. How are you, John?
We're tired, but we're great.
Now, you've just stepped off the plane for JFK.
Yeah, just home. So we were home yesterday, but the difference in hours and everything, I'd kill you, so it would.
Bit of jet lag, but you came out with a cup of tea to us this morning.
When you have this to come to.
You have this now. This is the trophy. This is the all-important trophy.
That's the American one. That's the Galway one. That's the Bet365, the Dunne National. So
and Listowel races as well, the horse. Let's go back to the beginning, John.
Yes.
The horse. You bought him for just over 800 quid.
I bought him for 800 quid, about 3 miles down the road here, down in Gorse-Bridge in the Martin Donoghue's auction.
And did you know at the time his pedigree?
Definitely didn't know, but he was a nice horse and he walked well, and that's all. When you're buying young horses like that, you have to go by your own judgment.
Okay, now how many horses have you here in the yard?
About 60.
Okay, so from there, anyway, you said, right, we'll enter the Grand National. Why did you decide to enter the American Grand National?
Well, he was after winning the Bet365. He won the Galway Plate. He probably should have won in Listowel. He was unlucky, he fell.
Yeah.
And the ground was beginning to go in Ireland. He wants good ground. So we said we'll stick him in and see what happens. And he came home out of Listowel well after his little blunder. And I said, here we go. Listen, it's a dream. It's something that you dream about when you're maybe 16 years of age, that someday you'd have a horse for the American. The American Grand National is something that we're looking at for years. And you never think you'd have a horse.
And we're looking at shots of him there on air. Like, he took the last bend fairly quick, and there was a good bit of pace in him towards the end, wasn't there?
There were, yeah. He flew after jumping the last fence. He just took off. But we knew that because in the Bet365, it was 3 mile 5, and that was only 2 mile 5. So we knew we were always going to be able to stay. The Americans thought they had us beaten. Now, they really thought that 2 horses in the race and said, there's no way that we were going to be. But we had different things in our mind.
You had different things in your mind. And, of course, what I loved about it as well is that you dedicated the win to Jack de Bromhead.
Yeah, listen, Jack was a lovely kid, so he was. And Paddy was very friendly with him. And he's always in the back of our mind. And lads, it's going to be always in the back of our mind. Jack will always be there. Absolutely. He was here, he rode out in this yard, his pony, and listen, it's just great.
And you've your own 2 lads that ride out as well.
That's Paddy.
Paddy and TJ, of course, congratulations,
TJ. Thank you very much.
You were the winning owner.
Yeah,
You're in your early 30s. You've been winning Grand National.
Yeah, it's surreal now at the moment, but hopefully it'll sink in now in the next few days when we get a bit of sleep, please God.
And Hewitt, the name, of course, Hewick. You went to the horse, but he wasn't Hewick when you entered him.
No, Rachel's partner tried to name him after a place in Scotland. It's actually called Hayek. Now, don't ask me how to spell it. I haven't a clue, but there was a mix-up with the spelling, but we said we'd just stick with Hewick then. So Jack said it'd be good luck to stick with it. And
good luck to stay with him. And where now to for the horse?
Back home to me when he gets back home in about 10 days, and he'll get his well-deserved break. And then he'll come back into Sharks probably December, early January. And aim for the Gold Cup in Cheltenham.
Aim for the Gold Cup in Cheltenham, and that's what you've got your sights set on now, Jim.
We have the sights set on Cheltenham Gold Cup, like it's everyone's dream. So we're hoping our dream won't stop. But listen, what the horses have to do for us this year and doing for the yard here, the staff, you see here this morning, all the staff going out to ride out horses there at 7:30 in the morning in the cold of the morning. It doesn't make any difference if the sun is shining, if it's spilling rain, if it's snow. All the horses have to be rid out. So they have to be rid out every day. They're there this morning to do it again. And it's great credit to my staff here for what they're after doing. And we were gone for the last week that they were there and they kept the show going.
And of course, Rachel Blackmore as well.
Yeah, Rachel started here with us. She started here in this barn. We hadn't much more in this barn at that time.
Yeah.
And so she's after being a great show for us. She kept us going the whole time along, and now we have a horse to keep us going. So it's mighty.
Isn't that great? They'll be all calling to your yard now. There'll be no shopping even.
Well, there was a lot of neighbours here yesterday and the day before, and they were cheering and everything. And I went down last night down to the local pub for half an hour, and there was a big cheer when we went in. And brother, he was in Paulstown, so he was the night before, and he said they nearly knocked down the place. So.
Which is great. So there we have it, and of course you have a winning greyhound as well.
That's correct. Yeah, we were lucky enough to win an Irish Greyhound Derby this year, something that would have been dreamed of as well. There was always greyhounds and well, it was actually greyhounds before there was horses in this family. Yeah.
So you're going to parade the two of them down the Greyhound Stadium.
Yeah, well, listen, we said they asked me the other night would we bring the horse into Kilkenny into Greyhound track, and I said, sure, bring on the two, bring on the Greyhound, we'll make a night of it.
Make a night. I'd say you bring half a Carlow with you as well. So there we have a Carlow's on the map. The small stables are on the map as well. Kilkenny, you're on the border. Back to you guys in the studio. Well done, congratulations.
Thanks very much, Deric. Sure, he's not called the Shark for nothing, John Hanlon. I mean, he's a big trainer. And I would have met him at a few kind of Cheltenham preview nights. An
would you?
Gentleman, yeah, he is.
It's just, so first of all, the horse as well did a huge amount of the work and everything, but I just...
850
But
euros.
this is the thing, the person that sold the horse to John going, what's John Hanlon noticing in this horse?
He's got a good walk, that horse.
I'm not seeing. And John's like, no, he's just going to, he's coming up as a playmate. Do you know, he's got all the horses get a chance to play in the stables and like in GAA.
In terms of nicknames, the Shark's a good one,
Shark.
isn't it? I wonder why he's called the Shark.
I wonder, anyone who knows him, you know what to do. 0896 111 111. And Kilkenny and Carlow are claiming that one, obviously,
Absolutely,
are they?
of course, yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen, everybody wants that. I mean, it's one of these stories that's just such a good news thing. Whenever you think €850 cost to buy it, and it's just won 160,000. The top prize in the American Grand National. Well done, lads. Well
Sometimes
done.
we forget the horse in all of this. Well done to the horse. Well done, Hewick.
There
yes,
you go.
Well done, Hewick.
Right, time for a short break. We'll chat to you after we come back. Put on the cup of tea.
Go on, sure. Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now, we've been busy rummaging through this morning's papers for this top story. Normally, we do this with another person.
I'm normally in the sports pages.
But that hasn't. But, you know, it just hasn't happened this morning. So we're going to talk about some of the big stories you will see in an awful lot of the papers.
You can tell me about it, right?
I can't tell you about it. So there's a ban on new evictions lasting until March is set to be approved. It's not a complete ban on evictions for rental accommodation, I think, not just not mortgages. It's going to be a moratorium where people, like during COVID, cannot be evicted from their house for certain reasons.
But it doesn't include tenants who refuse to pay for the rent or misuse a property.
Yeah.
And that existing notices to quit will also be enforceable. So, I mean, it's interesting here because Leo Varadkar was talked about and Fine Gael have kind of opposed this to an extent, that they said that Fianna Fáil and the Greens have kind of thrown it on them. We haven't teased this through. And listen, the big problem with this, Muireann, it's a good story.
Yep.
But at the same time, in the housing market at the moment, we are seeing private landlords flee. They're leaving the market.
Absolutely.
And something like this, where if somebody's not being able to pay the rent, somebody is doing something and they might leave again, which means it's more cuckoo funds taking over more rental properties and the prices are just going to go up more.
Now, the one thing that's never mentioned in this, I suppose, is where some of those private properties go to. And we know that the Simon community issued a report yesterday whereby there is the fewest number of private rental accommodation available in the market since they've started looking at this. But we've got the most houses on Airbnb that we have ever seen. So there is an issue in relation to what's going on.
Because people can make so much money on Airbnb.
Absolutely.
And if you own a property, I mean, it's your call what you want to do with it. But the government has said there's also fears that announcing this move could trigger a rash of notices to quit in the coming days.
Absolutely. To try to get it done before that, which would be huge, which would be absolutely terrifying for people. So we're just wondering what you make of this. The ban on new evictions lasting until March. So it's just going to be a moratorium like there was during COVID times.
Yeah. And listen, we're knowing what the cost of living at the minute. People are probably having to wonder, I mean, do I heat my house or do I pay my rent? I mean, these are the sort of decisions people are going to have to make it over the next while.
Yeah.
So it is a good thing, this, but at the same time, you can see there's both sides of it. And that's what Leo Varadkar said. Listen, there's pros and cons to it as well. Let us know, 0896 111 111. I suppose, speaking of Leo Varadkar, he's in the paper here with the elbow out of the van.
But that's not, we don't want to talk about him with his elbow out of the van in the paper. We want to talk about something that Leo Varadkar put on social media. And this is, he said, this is the meal prep in the Varadkar household for the week. So this is the meal prep that Matt...
He's delivering on Deliveroo.
I think he's taking
on the van.
I think he's taking it. So yesterday on social media, I don't know how many times this was sent to me as the grimmest fridge people had ever seen in their entire lives. What do you make of what Leo gets to eat for the entire... Do you think if he ate nicer things, you know, he'd be in a better mood?
No wonder he's in great form. Look at that, not in great shape. I mean, fair play, Matt doing the
Matt does all the work. The doctor's doing all the work.
I just wonder with a fridge, you know, meant to put lids on things.
Did he take all the lids off so that he could take the pictures?
Okay.
To be like, this is what's in our meal prep. Is that the same dinner? Is that the same thing every single day?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what it looked like.
Here, finally, Liz Truss is in a bit of hot water as well.
Sorry, can you let me know what you think about Leo's food prep? 0896 111 111. It made me sad.
So she was meant to be at the Prime Minister's questions yesterday and she didn't even turn up.
She showed up for 12 minutes. What are you talking about?
And she didn't say a word.
Penny Morden took the questions where she said that she wasn't being detained and she wasn't hiding under a desk. And then Jeremy Hunt released, who was the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, released his new fiscal statement, which was reversing the mini budget that Cosy Kwarteng released
just
2 weeks ago.
there.
And Liz sat there and like blinked, and it was really, really, really uncomfortable. And then she came out in the BBC last night at 10 o'clock where she said, I am not quitting, essentially.
I was looking up the odds of what it would take to get Boris back into power again.
Oh, great. Thanks for that. We're having a bad enough morning as it is. Come on.
Let's have 14 to 1.
That's all it
Boris
is.
Johnson's going to be
What
back.
are the odds of Tommy becoming the next Prime Minister? Because at this stage, anything goes.
Anybody could do it. Now, still to come in this morning's show, we're going to be talking mysteries, moisturising and the menopause. We'll see you after the break. Good morning, you're very welcome back. We have plenty more on the way between now and 10 o'clock.
We certainly do. He is the New York Times best-selling author behind some of the world's most successful crime novels. I'm going to try not to say Rebus in a very bad Scottish accent all day. Yep.
I'm actually quite excited about this. Ian Rankin coming in.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like so many books, like proper megastar.
I was following him around Dublin last night on his pub crawl, and then Tommy just sent me a picture of him having a beer as well. I was like, oh, they're going to get on so well. Sorry.
Plus, we meet the Wicklow parents whose son was diagnosed with the rare life-altering condition. That's coming up very shortly.
It is, and it's Menopause Awareness Week. We're going to be discussing it a little bit later on.
Now, Suzie Lee is back in the kitchen. Good morning to you, Suzie. What have you got for us?
Morning. I am making a very simple dish. My mum used to make this for us all the time. It's a chicken and veggie soup. Really cheap and cheerful.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, that actually sounds
winter warming. Just what we need this morning. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Suzie.
And giddy up, Deric is busy unlocking.
Do it properly. Give it a bit of sauce.
Inner junk. Who knows what we're going to see now? Deric, how are you getting on? What are you doing?
Tommy, come here. It's a real misty morning down here in County Carlow this morning. We're actually out here in the gallops. John has decided to kind of stay with us. John, they're out here. There's a good crowd of them out there on the gallops this morning, isn't there?
Yeah, there's 8 or 10 that rides out here every morning. So this is every morning from 7 o'clock until 12 or half 12.
7 till 12 in the morning. Can we just hold on to the shot here because they're just coming around into shot here. They're out nice and early, aren't they, John?
Out nice
there they are, flying past us. Morning, lads. There we go. They're enjoying the morning mist. It's a great morning for us, isn't it?
Sure. That's
for sure. Good man. Glad you lads in the studio.
Yeah, that's great, Deric.
That's a great one, all right there now. Running around the fog.
That's how he likes presenting the old weather in the morning.
Poor old John Hanlon going, what is
happening here?
Me do?
Welcome back. Now it's time to take a look at this morning's papers, but we've got some breaking news, and this has just happened in the last half an hour. Junior Cert results are confirmed for the 23rd of November. So kids who sat their Junior Cert over 4 months ago
still haven't got them yet.
will be getting their results on the 23rd of November, and they will be be available online from 4 p.m. that day as well.
23rd of November.
4 months after they sat them. They said that the delay was blamed in part on a shortage of examiners and the priority given to marking the Leaving Cert. 0896 111 111 if you have any views on that and how your junior certs feel. We'll get to the papers now. The Irish Times, its headline: plan for ban on winter evictions to last until March. The Cabinet is expected to approve a ban on new evictions lasting until next March when it meets this morning, despite misgivings about the measure amongst some in Fine Gael.
The Daily Mail leads with a similar headline: evictions ban in 2 weeks.
Developers lure farmers with special land deal to build homes. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. One of the country's largest home builders wants to entice farmers into partnerships that may see them get higher than normal prices for land.
The Examiner leads with tight security for the Monk's trial. One of the biggest ever gangland trials in Ireland is set to start today as the state opens its case against Jerry the Monk Hutch for the murder that ignited the Kinahan-Hutch feud.
The Mirror's front page: Monk in the dock.
The Star leads with the same story. Gloves are off. Dowdall and Dad jailed for Regency and now will tell all.
And finally, the Herald has the same story. It's poison the hood. Are you okay about the junior cert? Are you delighted that your face?
I just think it's a laugh.
What's a laugh?
That they haven't even got the results yet. I know it's not that they're getting them tomorrow. Like, they're not getting them to November. Anyway, listen, let's not get into that. Let's talk about
I think he wants to get into it, I'm going to be honest.
Let's talk about another really divisive topic, which is GAA and the sidelines, the aggression that we're seeing from parents and from coaches, and whether coaches should be encouraging kids that winning is all, or is it actually about inclusivity and fun and turning up? And we're seeing loads of sports and loads of kids are falling out of sport and falling in love with the sport because they're not getting picked because they're not being involved in it, which is really sad. But we had Jen Hogan on, who was very keen that everybody should be getting a chance. And we had Shane then on, who was talking about, well, you have to learn to be able to deal with setbacks and not getting picked. And we have a text in saying here, I have to agree with that point, that a child needs to learn that they are not brilliant at everything. My chap was always the sub at underage. It just didn't click with him until he was about 16 and grew into himself. Now he's a starting player and he's mentally tougher as he kept at it and tried to improve his game. And listen, I have to agree with that.
This is all in relation to the under-9, the alleged incident where an under-9 player was grabbed by an adult at a blitz over the weekend in Tipperary. We were recently at an annual under-9s football tournament. We watched two fathers who were involved in the training of the children go at it on the sideline, pushing each other around. What chance do the kids have seeing this? We were stunned. I think it's a new generation of parents that have gotten so competitive themselves, and this texter says it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it is that competitiveness, but it's sport.
Well, can you imagine being on the sideline of Emma's game and starting shoving another dad around?
Yeah, you do see it. I take the dog for walks past football matches and you see the abuse from the sidelines. I totally agree with Jen Hogan. I read her article and wanted to cry. All the coaches care about is winning, and it doesn't matter how they make our children feel. My 15-year-old daughter came home crying from every match, as she was always left standing there watching the game. Last December, she was at a final in the freezing cold, stood there, they won, and she cried the whole way home because she couldn't celebrate with them. My heart is broken. And it's a really tricky one.
Seeing your kid being left out.
Yeah.
You want to.
But they might not have won. They might not have won if she was playing. Do you mean, what does a coach do? Because they're there trying to do their best. And it's a really, I don't really know what.
You're probably going to end up coaching at some stage. And there's a message here that says what's needed is competition for different levels of skill. Let that be 6 or 7 aside. A club will always put their best team on the pitch in order to win. So they should run tournaments for the children that are not as skilled. All children want is to put a jersey on and get on the pitch. As for the people that are running onto the pitch, and in this case, allegedly grabbing a child by the throat, that is a lifetime ban. That is the only answer, a lifetime ban from the GAA. So I wonder if there's enough children in locality, if there should be 18s.
Did you feel involved when you played for the thirds and the fourths?
I was sports captain.
Whatever.
How dare you? Hockey captain, oh my God.
Hockey captain, really? Yeah. Anyway, keep those texts in, 0896 111
I made it to Mosney.
It's a really interesting one.
I made it to Mosney. So what, he's an Irish international?
Sure she did.
I don't care.
And lost.
We've got story coming up for you after the break about just extraordinary parents and their wonderful child. We'll talk to you very shortly.
That's great to have you back. Cliona Buckley had a perfectly normal pregnancy, but as the weeks after giving birth to her son Alex passed, he was not meeting his developmental milestones.
Eventually, Alex was diagnosed with an absolutely life-changing condition. It's called, and I'm going to try to say this, it's so rare, a lot of people don't know it. Periventricular leukomalacia. And here to discuss this, our parents, Cliona Buckley and David Dunne, along with their son Alex. Good morning. How are you? This is because, like, I've never heard of this in my life.
No, either had we. So yeah, I suppose to go back to the beginning. So Alex is our third child, and it was a perfect pregnancy, like you guys said. And then we went into lockdown when he was 7 weeks old. So we were homeschooling the other kids, and we were all in just a bubble of gorgeousness. Like, it was just amazing. I just really wanted a third child. I'd had a miscarriage before Alex. And when we got to maybe 8 or 9 months, I just knew, because obviously having the other two kids, he wasn't rolling, he wasn't sitting, he was just limp. I rang my GP, obviously they couldn't see us, and because of lockdown.
And you weren't, of course, you weren't having those...
We had no checks.
No checks,
No, with the nurses, they weren't obviously coming out. The GP said, don't worry, he's a lazy baby, he's 2 amazing older siblings that are carrying him around, but I just wasn't happy. I went back, I'm a teacher, I went back to school in September, and one of my friends noticed that Alex had very low muscle tone, and that's how our journey started.
So he was diagnosed with PVL.
After an MRI.
After an MRI.
So he lost skills. So he was able to clap his hands, he was able to wave, and that all stopped.
What is PVL?
Dave, be able to explain that.
Yeah. Right. PVL, it's like a scarring or softening of the tissue that connects the brain cells to the nervous system and communication. So, for want of a better word, some premature babies will be sometimes born with it. Okay. But in Alex's case, it was a bit of a mystery as to how a baby goes full term. And when we eventually got the scan done on his brain, it was quite widespread throughout his brain. So it was very unusual.
It's so unusual because there's 2 issues with Alex. So far, Alex is the only child in the world who has been diagnosed with this, is that?
Well, it's a genetic deletion. So I got a phone call. So we weren't able to do any of the appointments together because of COVID. So Dave had to bring him for the MRI. He put it under general anaesthetic. A lumbar puncture was done. Oh, God. He came home to me safe, thank God. Like, we got him christened. Our priest did a christening first because I didn't want him going under general anaesthetic without it. And then I got a call. I was in my neighbour's garden the next day from the consultant to say that he had brain damage. Wow. Alex was on my knee, and I just gave him to my friend Sandra, and I just went upstairs in an awful state. I rang Dave in work to come home.
Yeah. That's how you find out.
What does go through your head when you get that phone call, Dave?
Initially, when you obviously go into a little bit of, fly-fight mode. You're kind of, what do you do? How do you solve this? Where do you start? What's the thing? But when you're, when you're faced with Alex's condition, there was a less than 3% chance of actually finding out that he had a genetic disorder when the bloods were sent away. But when you're told, unfortunately, because he's the only person in the world with this genetic condition, with genetic conditions, so many different things can happen. If you have a genetic condition that's, some other person might have, you might say that your life is going to be expected this way. But with Alex, unfortunately, it's day by day, week by week.
But there's so many different forms of, of brain damage. Like, what developmentally, I know that he's the only one, but what is expected? Like,
so we don't
Alex
know.
Looks
so then,
like, he's in his pram now, he's moving around.
Oh yeah, he looks like absolutely. He is perfect to us, and that's why we want to get him all he deserves as a little human being. But it didn't kind of. So after we found out about the PVL, the consultant said then that that couldn't be it because he was full term. So then we had to wait another 3 months and go to Temple Street. And again, I had to go alone. Dave drove me, and I had to go and sit by myself. And Alex was on my knee. The consultant sat opposite me and said to me that he doesn't know what Alex's life will be. I was a 5-minute appointment across the table to be told, I don't know if your child will ever walk. or talk.
I mean...
And then that was it. I was out the door.
Yeah, well, that's it. Because COVID was such a difficult time for consultants, for doctors, for nurses. But for you guys going in, are you on your own?
Yeah.
When you get hit with news like that and not have your partner beside you, be able to have your family, and have to make that walk out.
Oh, I'll never forget it. I remember lashing rain and coming out and just getting into the car. And the only thing that Dave said to me is, you know, because at times we didn't know if Alex was going to have a terminal situation. We were told that along the way as well. So Dave just said, do we get to keep him? Oh. And I said, I think so.
I think so. What, because Alex's condition is so rare, no one knows what's going on. This is how you live.
No one does.
And I know that your life is incredibly hard. Alex doesn't sleep through the night.
No, never.
He was up until 3 o'clock. You've got 2 other wonderful children.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Who are over there, Ella.
Yeah.
They're so good, and they know, like, they're great with Alex.
They are.
But they're kind of, everyone's awake all the time.
Yeah.
But you had to write an open letter to the HSE. You're in a particular situation.
Yeah, so all of this kind of came about with 2 friends sitting in my garden one day going, like, what are you going to do? Like, we need to move forward with this. And could you put pen to paper? And I did. And it's just like the beginning of my letter says, like, who wants to, like, put your story out there in your family to everybody? You don't want to do it. But I felt as a mum I didn't have any choice. I had to get help for Alex.
But what do you need for Alex? Because both of you have to work full time.
Yeah, there's nothing, we have to work full time, both of us. Alex is with an amazing childminder, so obviously we have to pay her, we have to pay our bills like everybody else. But we need to adapt our house for Alex. Alex is going to be with us until the day we die. Yeah. So
then there's other, possibilities that we're hoping in the future that there's, developments in technology or with, genetics that maybe someday, somebody somewhere might stumble upon something that might be able to help him in his life. He's going to, we could go on for hours about the unfortunate delays that you're seeing through the HSE regarding...
But what was some of those delays?
Service and stuff, but going forward into the future, Alex is going to need quite a lot in terms of what he's going to need in terms of mobility and everything else. So in terms of adapting the house is one part, and then obviously anything else that comes for the rest of his life to help him.
We were talking yesterday about 150 million being given out had to be paid in compensation in councils because they haven't spent the 150 million on fixing a footpath. When you're meant to be getting something from a HSE, there has been such a delay that by the time it gets to you, like a chair for Alex.
No, so I feed, this is Alex's chair.
Because
Alex is fed in a buggy.
Because
he had because of the delays are so long, he had a special high chair, and when it arrived, it was the wrong size. It took 8 months for it to arrive to my house. It was left outside the door, and it was rained on. So now we are looking to get another type of chair for him, but he has been fed in his buggy for the last 5 months. In my sitting room.
There's a difficulty with high chairs as well with Alex because it needs to be so specific because he tends to rock his head back and slap his head. So there's...
I can understand. Listen, we're talking about cost of living crisis. Yeah. We're talking about how difficult it is to feed to heat your house, to pay for mortgages, rents, everything. Everybody's been pushed at the minute. Yeah. You've also got 2 great children here as well. You've got Alex in as well, who's going to need this extra support. And to try and make ends meet and actually put the conditions that he needs to thrive, it's impossible to do. So what has the HSE said in response to the letter?
Well, the HSE is one. The other is the council. I mean, as we said, we're both working parents trying to make a living, pay our taxes just like everybody else in this country. But when you get a letter back to say, we applied for the grant,
to adapt the house.
To adapt the house for him.
This is for under the HAP scheme.
No.
Oh, no.
No,
this is just through Wicklow County Council where we live to apply to adapt the house. So you can get a grant.
Yeah, you get a grant.
We got a letter, 2 lines, basically saying we will get 0.
You earn too much money. Which is
when
you look at it on paper and you kind of say, you never even asked me what my outgoings are. Somebody somewhere just said, that's the number, you're over it.
And the fact that they've said that to you, it makes you really worried for other people who are out there.
And that's definitely, like, in terms of, like, other families that I've met on the journey, like, we are not the only family.
No.
But, the situation is that You know,
but it has to be a case-by-case basis, right? It can't be a blanket.
Well,
you have to go.
You see, in Wicklow as well, like, so the services amalgamated, and in Wicklow, there's only one physio that started 2 weeks ago. He's had no physio since November.
That has to go privately.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, we know that you have set up a GoFundMe page, which has had an amazing response.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Actually, I've seen it come up on my Instagram quite a few times already, which is amazing.
You saw it come up, did you, Donna? Come on now. You know, yeah, I'm just saying.
It's for Alex.
You see it come up.
It's Alex's journey.
Yeah, so we called the page I Am Alex, and we set it up with 12 friends. Yeah. So we have an amazing support. We've done a few fundraisers already, and we have more coming up.
But this is the situation we're in.
This is where we're at.
That people can't, the government can't help.
No, we have to do it ourselves.
They're spending money on stuff. It's being sent out to you so much later. It's of no use to anyone.
Yeah.
Like, where's the joined up thinking?
That's exactly it. Buggy was meant to arrive last week, didn't arrive. So, but that's, you know...
Things end up costing more money in the long run.
100%. Yeah. And we could all go with, you know, going backwards, but like as his parents, we want to go forwards, and that's why we've set up the page to try to give him what he needs.
Listen, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having us.
Your story. And listen, fair play, Alex. You've been such a good little boy in there.
Ryan and Ella were on standby over there, and they were like, "We don't know. He's been so good."
Cliona and Dave Dunne, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
And Ryan and Ella, we'll say hello to your teachers as well. You should be in school soon. Right.
Oh, Ryan isn't going to like that.
You're very welcome back. We have a nostalgic winter warmer from Suzie Lee's childhood. Good morning to you, Suzie.
Good morning.
Tell us why this takes you back.
Okay, so this is one of those soups that my mum used to make for us all the time, and especially at winter time. It was full of goodness with your veg. She whacked in chicken, but usually she used chicken legs because we just loved meat off the bone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In a soup?
Absolutely. Just dig it out and then have a wee drumstick. So my kids loved that now. And then just the soup mix. So that's got all your pulses, so really hearty. So I've changed the kind of recipe for this time because I would use a whole pack of soup mix. So it's pretty much a stew, like a casserole. It's really thick and you'd be eating most of that. So I've kind of halved it so that you're getting more of this kind of consistency.
I'm the exact same. Like an old soup like this, a stew, just brings me back. Like,
absolutely.
Now, when in our house, though, it was like the whole shelf of the fridge was just fired into it.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of something you could do.
Exactly. So, like, this is that cheap and cheerful £1 soup veg mix. So if you don't have time to chop, fine. But literally, we're talking 2 leeks, 2 large carrots and celery. But if you can get the celery, the soup celery, which is slightly stronger in flavour, get that. Okay. But all of this, that's 500 grams of chicken thigh meat, and then, well, 250 grams of soup mix.
You can't get that in a bag, can't you?
All of that.
So how do we get started? You're putting a few veg stock or chicken?
I use chicken, but you can use veg, obviously.
Into the boiling water.
Into the boiling water. So straight into here, we are actually adding the chicken.
Okay, so you're going to boil it.
We're going to boil it to get the flavour out of it. And then the soup mix. So...
all together?
All together. So you want to sort of cook through and soften the soup mix. So literally, we just leave that.
Like Muireann was giving Leo Varadkar a hard time earlier in the show about him and his meal planning. So she was. And how he put up a picture of all his fridge with the different meal preps and getting it done at the start of the week. But this is something that you could do.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, have it sitting in the fridge and just heat it up.
Absolutely. And I actually batch cooked this and I have it sitting in tubs in the freezer. So, like, literally when it's a bad day. It's a really bad day, and I want to obviously get the veg into my kids. I just lift it out and defrost it and just
defrost, you stick in the freezer. Okay, great.
Yeah. So put it in the freezer. So so we just let that boil away for at least 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, the longer the better, more flavour comes out of it. And once that's done, you add in the veg. That's it. And the veg, you just let that cook for at least 20 minutes, if not 30 minutes.
How much water have you got?
So this was 3 litres of water in here. So like two really large kettlefuls of water.
Lovely.
Through that and let that simmer away. Then we add in the veg. So literally after, imagine, 20 minutes has passed.
Sorted.
So literally all your
time.
chopped veg. So as you can see, it's a really hearty soup. This probably, I could have used a larger kind of pot.
And is that it? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and so for all of that ingredients, and you can see, like, you can make this, eke that out a little bit more with a little bit more stock. You can feed easily 8 people.
Okay, go on, let's have a taste. Can I have a taste?
So £5 for a pot.
Okay, or €5, of course.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
€5. €5. Sorry.
Right. So, and just a nice big helping like this. I mean, this is the sort of thing I know I would be just going back for more and more and more. And you've made some bread then to go with it, to kind of dunk it in. This was your Paddy's Day soda bread as well. You had a bit of extra time this morning.
Yes, I do. It's amazing.
Oh, because I just love putting some nice wheat bread, whatever, nice full of butter, and it just melts into it. It just reminds me kind of winter time.
Absolutely. So let me just...
Now, why did you go chicken thighs instead of chicken breasts?
It's way cheaper.
Okay.
Like, way cheaper. It's one of those things where now we are looking at the cost of living. I think everybody is talking about the cost of living. And you're kind of going, do you know what? How can I save? Like, this is like a couple of pounds worth instead of like, or euros worth, instead of like €5 worth for that amount of chicken.
Yeah.
So I've just
But there's no difference in flavour or taste or texture?
Flavour is much more in a chicken thigh than in a chicken breast.
Thigh?
Yes, because it's been near the bone and that's where all the juices were before would have been, and that's why I would have cooked it with, like actually on the bone.
And with chicken legs, like you said, you had it whenever you're growing up, that would be even more flavoursome again.
Absolutely. So that's what I would have done.
Okay,
so.
very good. Well, listen, Susie. This is one that's definitely going to be going into my fridge now, so thank you very much for that.
Just on time.
Yummy, just on time.
9 seconds to go.
Suzie Lee, nailed it. How could you even tell? Shh. Muireann, what else have we got to look forward to coming up after the break?
We put a giant clock over on that screen over there and Susie's obsessed with it. She's always looking at it. Now, coming up on the way, Tommy's mad for this one. We've got all you need to know on the menopause. We'll see you very shortly. Now, menopause rarely uttered outside whispered words in groups of women down through the centuries. In the past few years, all that has changed. We even have Joe Duffy talking about it. He's mad for the menopause, is our Joe. And today is World Menopause Day, and I'm joined by pharmacist Laura Dowling too. Are we celebrating?
We're celebrating it. Yeah.
We're celebrating
Why not?
In your role as a pharmacist, your first point of call for an awful lot of people because you can't get to the GP and all that kind of stuff. So do you have people come in and they're saying symptoms to you and in your head you're going, oh God, I think you're starting the menopause, and people don't have a clue?
Yeah, I think that we're a little bit more aware of it nowadays, but certainly perimenopause is the time where the fluctuations are happening, and that's any time from the early 40s onwards in women. You know, people often think menopause, old woman, no periods, you know.
Yeah.
Grey hair, and it's not actually the case. The fluctuations of hormones, you know, are starting now. I'm 42, so, and that's when it's all beginning. So it's when, you know, you have a bit of brain fog, maybe low mood, anxiety, vaginal dryness, a little bit of leaking as well can start to happen too with the low estrogen levels. So it's all happening.
Oh my God, you said so many things there that make me so sad. But what are, say, for people that commonly ask questions for people who are kind of perimenopausal or menopausal, like questions they'd come in and ask you?
So a lot of the symptoms can be urogenitory symptoms. So it can be like vaginal dryness, painful intercourse, you know, all those kinds of things, low mood, panic attacks.
Panic attacks?
Yeah. So it can be, there's a lot of mental issues with it as well, because estrogen is in all the receptors all over our body, our brain, our gut, our pelvis. So our joint pain as well can be a real symptom too, and people don't often realise it. They just think they're getting old and creaky. Now, it can be a little bit of oldness and creakiness too, but it's the fall in estrogen that affects all of these things in female bodies, and we're really only beginning to scratch the surface on talking about it so openly now, isn't that right?
Because I think it is essentially, when it comes to perimenopause, which is the premenopausal area, that people are really starting to notice it, because that can start, you know, your late 30s, early 40s, whatever. And they are the sort of things like whether it's a change in how your hair is, and but are people freaking out?
Well, you know, I think that people need to realise as well that we all go through it, and for the most part, a lot of us can get through it okay. You know, we may experience some symptoms, but with a little bit of help, a little bit of support. And there's lots of help and support out there now.
Yeah.
And so long as we inform ourselves, we will get through it okay. Now, there are people that suffer fairly bad. Some people suffer quite badly from the symptoms, like about 20% of women need a lot of help. But for the most part, so long as we keep talking about it and as long as we're open about it and as long as we use the tools and the information that's available to us, I think we'll get through it okay.
And I'm just wondering about, I'm hearing more and more about the Mirena coil, or the coil, like for women getting that when they're perimenopausal to kind of ease the symptoms.
Yes.
What do you make of it?
So the Mirena coil is, well, first and foremost, it's developed as a contraception. Yeah. So it's an utero device, so it gets put up into the uterus and it stays there for 6 years. So it provides the progesterone. So if a woman is going through the menopause and she requires HRT, she will be prescribed estrogen and progesterone if she has a uterus. So if someone has a uterus, they'll be prescribed progesterone. So they can take the progesterone in a number of ways. They can take it vaginally, they can take it orally, or they can just have the coil put up into their uterus, leave it there, and that gives them the progesterone that they need.
Okay, so that right. So I can understand why people are talking about it.
Cell proliferation in the uterus. So in order to keep that at bay, we need to have the progesterone in there.
Now you mentioned HRT there, and obviously that's something that women will indeed be prescribed, will be put on, and that's one way to deal with the menopause. We're going to talk about things that can support. Yeah. If you're going through, like, sort of products that will help you support. And I had like real bad scalp. I always have it, but I had real bad scalp recently, and I was like, oh, the state of me. And someone on Instagram goes, oh, you're probably perimenopausal. I was I was like, ease in, lads. Only 39. Give me a second.
I know, it's funny, isn't it?
Stop shouting at me.
It's almost okay to say it to someone now, and you know, or is it?
I don't know. Here, give me a second. But there, like, changes in scalp, that can be that can be a huge issue. So there are products there that can help people.
Changes in the scalp, changes in the skin. So, you know, dryness, itchiness of the scalp. Obviously, hair thinning can happen too.
Right.
So it's all a process.
Yeah, so there's some products that are available now that can kind of help that.
There are, yes. So we have the Pantene.
Is that developed specifically for that?
Specifically for menopause, yes. I know.
It's developed for menopause?
Yeah, well, it's hair biology menopause, so it has niacinamide in it, vitamin B3, it has white tea as well, so it's to help ease the kind of the symptoms of the itchy scalp and the dryness, and also make the hair appear fuller.
Oh, that's okay.
So it has, you know, they develop all these things, and they can really benefit women if they feel they need that little bit of extra support, like what you said.
When you're going through the menopause and when you get out the other side, you're kind of going, I'm never going to have to use pads ever again. This is amazing. That's not exactly
quite the opposite.
True. Yeah. Incontinence is a side effect.
Yeah. So a little bit of leaking or bladder weakness can be just a symptom of the menopause, because
Laura.
As I said, I know. Am I the bearer of bad news?
Give us a look at these pads get big.
Yes, they do, but there's, you know, Always Discreet has a variety of them. So from liners, just for, you know, very light leaks, to, you know, larger pads that have, that cover the whole pant. And then they have...
Go for it, guys.
They have pants as well. So, and they have like a special materials in them to help absorb the leaking. So the leaking is very different to, like, say, period blood. So there needs to be a different type of material as well to absorb it better, because obviously it's thinner liquid. It's more, you know, there's more volume there too. So it's important that people are using the right protection as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and people can find out lots of information as well on their website too. Always Discreet have a great website, the Menopause Hub, and it has loads of information about all kinds of symptoms of the menopause. Leaking being one of them, but also the mental side and the skin side and the hair side.
And the hair side. Yeah. And it's important to kind of be open, like for partners, if you have a partner, to be open and chatting about it.
Do you know what? I've had many women say to me, you know, even the last few months, oh, I think I might be going through it, but I'm not telling my partner. You know, they might look at me differently, or they might think I'm getting old, or they may not find me sexy anymore. I'm like, talk to your partner, because it's just a natural process of getting older. You know, wouldn't you want, if your partner was going through something and feeling a little bit upset,
talk to them.
Wouldn't you want them to talk to you about it? And it's just a natural process. And I think the more people that you make aware of all these symptoms, the easier it is for you, because, like, let's not forget, women at this stage in life, we're often dealing with children, we might be dealing with older parents, we're also trying to, you know,
there's a lot
progress
going on.
Our career. We've loads going on, and sometimes women will actually liken those symptoms that they're experiencing to just everything that's going on in their lives, rather than the process that's going on internally in their body, which is which is really important. So they need to look after their diet. They need to look out, you know, make sure they're getting enough omegas.
Imagine lesbian couples going through it at the same time. That must be a nightmare for them. God bless them. Pharmacist Laura Dowling, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
My pleasure.
Tommy, how are you? You all right?
I'm great.
Doing some pads.
Yeah. Picked a good time to go make a cup of coffee. We've lots more Ireland M coming up. Best-selling author, really, this Ian Rankin is going to be joining us in the studio very shortly. Plus, we're going to get your skin ready to brave the elements this winter. Don't go away. Very welcome back to the show. We've got lots more to come in the next hour.
On the way, he sold over 30 million books. Author Ian Rankin give us the inside scoop on his latest captivating crime caper.
30 million, incredible. Plus, your epidermis is showing. What does that mean? Jennifer Rock, also known as the Skin Nerd, is here with her top tips to care for your skin during the winter months.
Absolutely. And Laura Duffy is on the catwalk. Hello, Laura.
Good morning.
What are we highlighting today?
We have all things cozy, but cool. All the knitwear staples for autumn winter. You've got long line cardigans, we've got celeb inspired pieces, as you can probably get from this lovely little gold button cardigan.
We don't give it away.
Don't give it away. Coming up, Tommy,
Okay.
you will see. You will see. Designer inspired as well, and just a really nice selection of all things cozy.
Beautiful.
Lots coming up.
You're very welcome back. Now, there's been a huge response to our conversation at the start of the show talking about Jen Hogan with her piece about inclusivity and kids involved in GAA matches and should they all get game time, should they not? This obviously follows on from the story at the weekend where there was an alleged attack on a 9-year-old boy in a football blitz by a parent, grabbed him by the throat, allegedly. So we'll talk a bit more about that. But the text really... And the big thing, we've got a lot of coaches who are messaging in about this as well and said most coaches, like, we're doing our best. It's really difficult to put a kid on that you know is going to come off upset as they are so stressed trying to keep up. I had a 13-year-old and he asked me, please don't put me on. But I could see his parents on the sideline there watching, waiting for him to come on. Like, what do you do? After 12, kids are good. They have a good sense of their abilities and often they know more than their parents.
Another one that says, as a GAA coach of juvenile teams, it's up to the coach to retain and develop the player through to adult level. It's not about winning trophies. That means you make the player fall in love with the sport you coach. Participation is the best way to retain and develop a player. A player will not develop match skills watching from the sidelines. A lot has to be said about that because, you know, you've talked to me before about your career progression and it wasn't like you were a shining light.
Oh, far from it.
No,
From a young age, As I said, with my GAA days, spent a huge amount of time on the bench.
Yeah.
But you build resilience from that when you get that opportunity. Once you keep turning up. And my biggest thing is that parents will take their kids away because they feel it's not right, as opposed to the kids finding their way. Because they're used to the schoolyard.
The kids ask them not to go on, though. Jenny, what do you do?
I mean, we've a load more messages on
Thank
that.
you so
We'll try
much.
to get through some more of them as the show goes on. So thank you for getting in touch. Now, we're looking forward to this. After the break, he went from picking grapes to selling more than 30 million books. Best-selling author Ian Rankin is going to be live in studio after the break. Our next guest has sold over 30 million books, captivated audiences with his hard-hitting documentaries and the recipient of a knighthood.
Please welcome Ian Rankin to the show. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
It's lovely to have you. I suppose I'm not used to saying the word, sir. You're a recent recipient of a knighthood.
Yeah, the Queen's platinum birthday jubilee honours thing. Yeah.
Was it her last night? The last
yeah,
one
but I
she
mean, I
gave
didn't get it from her, unfortunately, because she passed away before I could go for the actual ceremony. So I guess it'll be King Charles at some point next year.
A huge honour.
I know, but you know, being Scottish, you always get pulled down a peg. I phoned my sister up and said, "Well, I've been getting a knighthood," and she went, "You're still my wee brother."
That's what we love.
Whenever I walk into my local bar, they say, "Where's your horse?"
So they're taking it in jest. They know what to do. They know what to do about it. We've got to talk about talk about the word prolific really can be applied to you because we're on, what are we on? The 24th book of the I'm going to not do the Scottish accent. I find it really hard because every time I talk about Rebus, I can't. I'm just like, 24th book.
Yeah.
And Rebus this time, you can't give too much away, but you know, Rebus has been through a lot, and he's not a detective anymore. Like he's gone, but he's still going.
He still feels like a detective to his very bones. So although he's long retired, he still tries to inveigle himself into criminal inquiries. But this time, he's the one who's in the dock. I mean, the book opens with him on trial. We don't know why. Then we go back in time to find out what's happened. And as a corrupt police station. There's a history of corruption, endemic corruption, and Rebus is connected to that somehow. And then we sort of drilled down to find out what he actually did.
Corruption. It's a real hot topic at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
And something we've spoken, because we have a lot of authors come on, they talk about their books, but a lot of them have steered clear of COVID. They kind of felt it was a tough time for everybody. Let's not go and revisit it again. But it's a big part of your book.
Yeah, I mean, every author has to decide are they going to reference it, mention it, set their book during the time. And two things did it for me that I decided I would set it during COVID. One was my son was on a jury during COVID, and it was extraordinary because the jury were in a cinema and the trial was taking place in a courtroom, and it was all done via cameras and screens. And I just thought, I've never seen that before.
Popcorn, the whole lot.
Almost. I mean, big comfy cinema seats that we're sitting in.
And you're also going, my research is just chatting to my son.
Exactly. That was exactly it. So
Okay.
he talked me through it. And then the other thing was that a guy I know who drinks in one of the bars I drink at in Edinburgh, I went in one day and he had a lanyard on. I said, what is that? He said, oh, it's a sign to tell people I've got COPD, what we used to call emphysema, therefore I don't have to wear a mask. I thought, well, my guy Rebus has COPD, therefore he could have a lanyard, and he would use that to try and get past police cordons because he'll think I look official. I'm wearing a lanyard, so that's why.
Does it, we'll talk about whether we don't want to give everything away. But the thing about Rebus is that, like, he's aging as we're reading him. Do you know, when I started reading him back in the 90s, when I started reading Rebus and what was going on, he's still going. Like, I think
just barely.
But just with his COPD, but he is still going. Like, there's a lot of life left in Rebus, do you think?
Well, I've enjoyed that aging process, and I've enjoyed the books post-retirement because we're looking at a man who's asking big questions about himself and does he still have a role to play in the world? Can he still make a difference to the world? And I guess we all go through that eventually. You know, the police have said to him, right, you're redundant now. We don't want you. In fact, we don't need your kind of policing. It belongs to the past. And he's going, well, but I can still make a difference, I think. And him and the gangster Cafferty who runs Edinburgh, he's going through exactly the same process of having the city taken away from him by younger, hungrier criminals. So, yeah, and, you know, we're all going through this ageing thing. And I thought, how can I write about Scotland and Edinburgh and the way the world is changing if my detective doesn't change with it?
I mean, you mentioned there the corruption part of it as well. I don't imagine, I mean, you've sold 30 million books. I mean, it is insane. How is the kind of crime thrillers, how has it changed now compared to what it was? You know,
well, it used to be the bestseller list in the UK used to be full of police detectives, your Morseys and everything else, Wexford and stuff. Now it's not. Now you've got psychological thrillers or domestic noir, as it's called, where you can't trust your family, you can't trust your spouse, you can't trust your next-door neighbour or your friend. They're out to get you in some way. That speaks to the paranoia of the present, where we don't know what to believe, we don't know what the truth is.
He does.
Then you've got the return of the Cosy, as we call it, which is the kind of amateurs solving crimes. So we've got folk in an old folks' home solving crimes,
Richard Osmond.
Yeah. We've got a priest solving a crime in Richard Cole's new book. We've got the reinvention of the Cosy in all different kinds of ways, which doesn't involve police. And I think it's partly due to the fact that, you know, writers now go, well, the police aren't necessarily the good guys.
And because everybody's loving crime fiction and loving the idea of it.
See, this is really interesting because the relationship with true crime, like we've seen women are voraciously consuming true crime now. And years ago, I remember you did a documentary on the BBC and it was Rankin on the Staircase, which is, people will have seen on Netflix last year based on the French documentary about the staircase. And it was you looking at real true crime versus kind of crime fiction. Do you think our relationship has changed in that way with the proliferation of true crime now? Or was it always there? It's just become a little bit more into the...
I think it was always there. I think TV now is much more interested in true crime than used to be the case. It used to be just a little corner of the bookshop had a few true crime books in it, and the people who went and lingered there looking at the photographs of murders were a bit strange.
Yeah.
Now it's got kind of respectable, I think. And often, you know, crime fiction does look at what's happening in the real world. I mean, this new book of mine really started with what was happening in the Met, the Metropolitan Police in London, with the Sarah Everard case, and the police had been covering up for this cop who turns out was a murderer. They knew he was a bad egg, as it were, but they just kept hushing it up and covering up. And now we're starting to see it coming out that there were lots of cops like that, and there was this institutional cover-up. We're not going to touch them, we're not going to punish them properly. And what you end up with is a police force that thinks it can get away with anything, because it has been getting away with anything for a long time, and that's why I wrote this book.
Well, I mean, and listen, you just have to look at Netflix. The top 10 is always true crime, and it's always stories like that as well. The BBC were talking about putting John Rebus in to be a television series at one stage.
Well, he was, yeah.
But you had Robbie Coltrane was potentially the late Robbie Coltrane. Yeah. Did you have a relationship with him?
I mean, this was very early on when the first book was published and the BBC said we're going to approach Robbie Coltrane to play Rebus, but he went off and did Cracker instead, which I think was a good move on his part. Very good move.
Not bad.
Funny, because I met his mum before I met him. His mum came to a book signing I was doing in St Andrews in Scotland, and she said straight away, "Oh, I'm Robbie Coltrane's mum." Then I met Robbie a few weeks or months later, I think in Edinburgh, and I said, "Oh, I met your mum." He said, "How long was it before she told you that she was my mum?" I said, 10 seconds. He went, "Yeah, that's about right."
Well, now you remember. You remembered who she was because of that.
Your parents don't mention you at all, do they?
No, they're far from it. Yeah, absolutely not.
When it came to writing, because you've had such a varied career, like France, grape picking, you did all these things until you're and a prolific writer. The love of it, was it always there?
Yeah, I mean, from a very young age, I was scribbling things down. I was interested in words. I'd sit and read the dictionary. I was absolutely fascinated with words, doing crosswords, all of that, and reading. My parents weren't great readers. I was the only member of the family who went to uni. I studied English and all the rest of it. But I just loved it. And then I, by extension, wanted to write. And I tried writing song lyrics for bands that didn't exist. Then I wrote comic books I couldn't draw. Eventually, I went into poetry. Poetry became short stories. The short stories became novels, and I began to get published. So it was an organic thing from about the age of 10.
So you wrote lyrics for bands that didn't exist, so you thought you'd set up your own band. We have to ask
Absolutely.
you about that.
Well, I mean, when I was a student, I was in a band called the Dancing Pigs, the second best punk band in Fife. And there were only 2 punk bands in Fife. I wrote my poems became the lyrics for that band, and then more recently, a bunch of us 50-year-old men, 60-year-old men who should know better, got together and decided to start a band called Best Picture.
And you're the front man?
I'm the front man. I'm the vocalist.
And lyricist?
And lyricist.
I would assume so. Yes. You should be double jobbing there as well.
With a single out as well.
We did make a single which sold a handful of copies, and most of the unsold ones are sitting in my office. So if anybody's interested in a cheap Christmas present, I can do you a deal.
I'll take one.
There.
Absolutely love it.
I know that you were around, you were signing copies, you had a love. Well, you didn't have much free time heading around Dublin yesterday, but fans of Rebus, and even like it really does bring you in. It's the brand new book. It's called Heart Full of Headstones. Ian Rankin, an absolute pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Coming up, we have got 4 cosy knitwear looks, perfect for getting away with true crime. Maybe, who knows? That could be it.
Detective. Yeah.
It's really dark. It's fine. We'll be with you in a minute. Welcome back. We're going cosy in fashion today with Lorna Duffy. Good morning.
All the cosy vibes and the knitwear this morning.
Yeah, because it's just time to
it's officially
embrace it all.
Frozen this morning.
We're going to take inspiration from a woman who, if you watch Only Murders in the Building, no one wears a knit like our Selena Gomez.
I am going to 100% agree with you there. She just pulls it off. Any kind of knitwear, every kind of knitwear, and even like the super casual, like she literally be walking to the shops and she just looks absolutely fabulous. And she can be in the most random, like, I mean, look at that. It's a pretty casual, everyday type cardigan.
Yeah,
and
it
she pulls
is.
it off.
It looks
so
really good.
Basically, from this look on Selena, we're going with 2 things. That lightweight, long line cardigan, but also the sort of neutral colours with the really nice sort of button detailing.
Okay.
So we'll start
you're
over
layering up.
here. We're going to show you now the beautiful cardigan. So this outfit here, first of all, is from the Style Market. We're going with a sort of a Chanel-inspired vibe. I love the detailing. You've got the sort of the lines, the gold buttons. It's just beautiful. I absolutely love it. Again, fantastic price point. Obviously, as you can see there, then we had the beautiful black gilet. Perfect. Again, you know, have a little piece of knitwear, something cozy, and then just throw something on just for a little bit of warmth is really, really good. Then we've got a really nice pair of, again, a wardrobe staple, high-waisted, stretchy, plain black leggings. You absolutely need to have them in your wardrobe. No
Do you know, it's so funny because I'm so used to seeing shiny ones or the biker ones or whatever. You forget about just plain. But just forget about plain old leggings.
Yeah, no, absolutely gorgeous. And then we've had these. No, I actually really want these boots. I'm gonna say, I really want these boots. All the shoes and boots this morning are from Murphy's Shoes in Bantry. They're just beautiful. I love a leather boot, anything pointed. The heel's high, but it's not too high. They're comfortable. They're just beautiful.
Also, if you were doing an awful lot of cropped jeans, you know, kind of the straight leg jeans during the summer, that'll be a perfect length boot to be underneath them.
And you could go with like a casual white tee, like a crop, maybe black leather jacket kind of vibe.
They're really good heights.
Absolutely. Beautiful. So next up, all of our jewellery this morning is from an Irish jewellers, Mark Joseph Jewellers. Beautiful selection of gold pieces here. They have a goldsmith, believe it or not. Their jewellers have a goldsmith. They have lots of handmade pieces. 2 stores in Dublin. Lovely selection online. The earrings tie nicely with the necklace and then a ring. So it's all matching this morning. We've got a lovely selection of pieces. Love the little ring. So this is actually handmade. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. I think just overall, so like it's a nice sort of maybe weekend look. But again, you could maybe swap the boots for a pair of heels and got a nice kind of 9 to 5 look as well.
Really nice toy.
Very,
That's
very
gorgeous.
nice.
Our next celebrity-inspired look is Kate Hudson. We're going to take a look at Kate Hudson.
So now look.
That's a power
You're going to love
stance.
a poncho or you're going to hate a poncho. Are you a poncho person? I love a poncho personally.
I never quite know.
Yeah.
I change how I feel
if
about ponchos.
Yeah, like if it's a print poncho, I'm going to say yes. This, obviously, you've got the print going on. We've got beautiful sort of Louis Vuitton here.
For
so
people at home who's going to be guessing, which model do you think it's going to be? It's going to be repping Kate Hudson. It's Ursula.
I wouldn't have picked a different person, honestly. Absolutely. So we're going for sort of Louis
There's the
Vuitton
music.
vibe here.
I was wondering where it was.
Absolutely beautiful. So again, the print, the style. Again, obviously we had a sort of a lightweight knitwear piece earlier. Now we've gone for a slightly cozier. It's just beautiful. I really, really like it. It's also available in sort of like a nude cream shade as well. It is just stunning.
So looking there, it does kind of where the design is. It comes over a little bit, but that is the polo neck and the sleeves. It's all one thing.
That's exactly it. And I think just the length of it, the style, it's cozy and warm, but it's not like too heavy. Obviously, you know, it's not absolutely bolting at the minute, so you do kind of want that extra layer. And we've got a beautiful pair of sort of culotte style leather trousers.
These trousers, they're amazing.
I also need to buy these. They're absolutely divine. Love them. Beautiful bag then, just for a pop of colour. And again, it's super spacious. And you know, you could be jetting off to the office. You're gonna have all the essentials in there. Really, really nice. And then again, we've got some beautiful earrings here. So I just love that sort of always like a knot detail. You'll see we have a ring that teams up perfectly with it, but again, you can't go wrong with the hoop. We wanted to hold off on our necklace. Obviously, there's a lot of print going on with our poncho. Beautiful little bracelet. Again, a very simple, dainty bracelet because obviously there's a lot of print going on with our poncho. Isn't it? It's quite cute. A nice sort of cone or coin style. Absolutely beautiful. And then the ring is again that knot style to tie in perfectly with those earrings. Just beautiful.
Those pants are class,
Aren't they
Ursula.
Just,
I'm going to say it again.
They're definitely
Buy them.
you.
Yeah,
they're gorgeous. And a nice little pair of quartz then as well to finish off that look because
gorgeous.
Really, really nice.
They're lovely. Now, Gigi Hadid is our next celebrity-inspired look.
So here we're looking at two things. Obviously,
her hair.
Well, you know, I mean,
joking.
I mean, we could talk about the hair.
I'm joking.
So the pop of colour, that really vibrant, hot pink, magenta, really, really all about pushing those really fun, bright, colourful colours. And then obviously, just like cozy knitwear in general. The casual looks, obviously we've had our slightly dressier looks, so we're going for super casual, cool look here. I just love this. I feel like, honestly, I would have this in 100 different colours. Long line cardigan, you cannot go wrong. J.W. Anderson vibes, love that magenta colour as well. Like obviously myself this morning, you could add a little belt to it if you wanted to kind of wrap it and make it a little bit dressier.
That's what I need to do. I forget to wrap them when I'm on here. People are always like, you're wearing your dressing gown. That's lovely,
Absolutely gorgeous. And then we've got a lovely, simple, long sleeve fleece lined.
Oh, very nice.
I might add navy top. Really, really nice. And I think because it's fleece lined as well, so dare I say coming up to ski season. Now, I'm a big skier. For a ski trip, a fleece lined, I'm just going to put it out there, that would be really, really good for a ski trip.
I wasn't expecting ski season this morning.
I'm already thinking, I know. Lovely pair of jeans. I love that sort of dark denim. Again, skinny jean. We've had our culotte style, we've had our leggings. Now we're going for a nice down jean. I adore these Calvin Klein white chunky runners.
Yeah.
They're just beautiful.
Well chunky, aren't they?
Absolutely lovely. I think they just really finish off that casual look. Obviously, you could add maybe a nice pair of like suede boots if you wanted to dress it up a little bit more. With our jewellery, we've swapped the gold for a bit of silver. We've gone for a slightly smaller sort of oval style hoop earring here. Really, really nice. Again, you know, if you're into your silver pieces, absolutely beautiful. Timeless. And then we've gone for a bit of layering then. So we have two little bracelets there. You actually can't quite see the bangle. We've got a lovely little square kind of detailing then with
can you
our
show us
bigger
the bangle?
one. So you've got another little bangle there. If you pull your seat
There we go.
there we go. Perfect. So square bangle priced at $99, and then we've got that sort of silver bangle then priced at $139. Absolutely beautiful. And then those two little rings with priced at $39. I just like the layering. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Noma, thank you so much for that. Now we're going to go on to, we had Selena Gomez, and now they're in the news together because they've been pictured together for the first time. So Hailey Bieber is our next celebrity-inspired look.
So here we are looking at two things. We're looking at that sort of oversized, really nice jacket, that shearling style. The neutrals, but again, obviously, the kind of the two tones, like the creams and whites with the beiges and the nude shades.
Just slightly different shades.
Yes, that's exactly it. So beautiful, sort of replicated or similar look on Chloe for our final look this morning. So again, basically here, firstly, obviously you can't go with a nice cozy knit jumper, but here any sort of vertical lines, a stripe, any sort of Breton, we're seeing a lot of it lately. Even like, you know, designs the likes of Celine, Chanel, any sort of stripe, particularly vertical, we're seeing it a lot.
This is everywhere. So, you know, I saw so many dresses recently where it's just half and half.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of it. Dresses, maxi dresses, even cardigans, the knit jumpers, we're seeing it absolutely everywhere. It's just nice if you wanted to mix up from a typical horizontal stripe Breton style jumper, for example. Absolutely love these leggings. Obviously, you have to include the biker leggings that we were talking about earlier. Love that rib detailing. Again, every autumn winter, I cannot get enough of them. They're absolutely beautiful. Lovely high waist, lots and lots of stretch in them as well. Nice pair of chunky little boots to go with, again, to tie nicely with the, I suppose, the colours and the jumper and the jacket. And again, they're just a nice practical pair for winter.
Because the jacket is really
nice.
Cozy looking. It's fab.
Absolutely. I like that it's not oversized as well. So obviously when it gets cold, you can really layer up with like, you know, your tops and jumpers and cardigans, that kind of thing. And then finally we have, we're going to finish up with another few gold pieces. Absolutely beautiful heart-shaped earrings. A tiny little hoop, gone for a subtle kind of look there. And then we've also got beautiful sort of vintage style watch. So we've had a few different bracelets.
I really like the watch.
I like it. It's just, you know, you don't see it that often. It's a different kind of style, vintage vibe. I think it's quite nice. I think it just finishes off that sort of subtle
vintage.
touch.
It's like a Casio from the 80s. I love it.
No, but it is Casio from the 80s. I literally could
does
not
actually
have said it better myself. It actually does. It
Jennifer Rock is like, no. She's like, give me a Rolex.
It's gorgeous. No,
I love
bring
that.
a Rolex next time. Fine.
My friend collects his Casios from the 80s. So, you know, Chloe, you look gorgeous. I love your watch. It's fantastic. Lauren and Duffy, thank you for the cozy knits this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Tommy, I'm going to get you that watch for your birthday now.
Vintage from the 80s. That's just you, isn't it? Like, Jane, with all your watches, she wears 2 watches, so another one, why not? Right, coming up after the break, Jennifer Rock is going to be here to talk about how to keep your skin fresh in the wintertime. Je m'en fous, is that in the top?
I have no idea.
I don't care.
We're going to talk winter skin.
I don't care. That's what it means. There you go,
I know.
See you after the break.
Welcome back now. As the temperatures begin to dip, it's a reminder that our skin will be facing the elements this winter.
So to make sure we are prepared to fight away the dullness and the irritability, Jennifer Rock, also known as Skin Nerd, is here to tell us how to do it. Good morning, Jennifer.
Just going to stand in a normal way.
Yeah, try to stand in a normal way. We're having one of our sibling days.
So tell us, let's
out.
crack into it. How important is it going into the winter months? Cold weather's coming. How do we look after our skin?
I think definitely this time of the year people tend to up the ante on treatments, and collagen is a conversation we tend to talk about, particularly this Christmas, because you might be seeing people you haven't seen in a few years, so you're looking at yourself in the mirror thinking, I just want to feel the best version of myself. I'm not a huge fan of collagen drinks, simply because when you ingest collagen, it can't just magically go to your skin and plump it up. So what I'm a big believer in is supplementation like this one. So it's your Advanced Nutrition Program, your Skin Collagen Synergy. There's ingredients in there, so each pod is what you take every single day. So they're your supplementation, they're 32 little pods, 32 active ingredients within your month-long pod, and they're vegan friendly, and they have ingredients like your zinc, your vitamin C, loads of nutrients that essentially trigger your body to make its own collagen, so to reignite your skin's own collagen.
Okay.
So we have, honestly, check out our own social media, we've had phenomenal, completely unbiased results with that alone, so definitely a big believer in that.
No collagen supplement.
That's exactly what it is, a no collagen supplement, so it gives your body the tools it needs to create its own collagen, so thumbs up.
Okay, we're moving on to serums next.
Yeah, so Mary Reynolds is a facialist, but she's a huge believer in all things energy. So not only does her ingredients or her products have science in it, but this particular elixir one essentially is a lightweight absorbing oil, but it has ingredients like vitamin C, vitamin E and omegas in there as well. So this, when you're coming into this time of the year, Tommy, as you were saying, this is all about what we call trans-epidermal water loss, essentially the natural...
Say that again.
We all say that?
How's the TWL today, Murray? But that's what it is. So essentially the natural reservoir of water is escaping from your skin. So that's why you tend to feel quite taut hot and tight. And
is that because we're going
flaky.
from cold to warm and the moisture's been drawn out?
A lot to do with central heating and we might have it on a little bit less this year than other years, but it does have a negative impact on our skin. But ultimately, what these two products together can do, but even separately, they essentially occlude the skin and keep that hydration that you naturally have within your skin. So you're less likely to have to, you know, be aware of the irritations and the sensitivities.
Very
that
good.
come with
Vitamins,
it.
serums,
Smells
can't
amazing.
go wrong.
Neroli and frankincense.
What about this one now? Cleansing oil.
Convara, so a fellow Irish brand. This one is from Boots. Essentially, this is a cleansing oil. If you smell this, this smells like a facial at home. So I promise you're going to adore it. But essentially, it takes off the most waterproof of mascara. It's a beautiful cleanser, really lightweight, but it's plant-based ingredients. This time of the year, I tend to up the ante on the foundation a little bit more. During the summer, perhaps I'm wearing lighter base. Now it's a little bit heavier. This just cuts through it all. And who this is brilliant for that you might not think of it for is essentially somebody who she's in heaven with
lovely.
the smell.
No, just squirt it everywhere.
Yeah, just put it around the bedroom. Never need it on your face. But the reality is oil cuts through oil, so it's brilliant for someone who's wearing a lot of foundation or has quite oily skin. It really removes it. Yeah, it genuinely does.
It removes the eye makeup. I mean, when you get a two-in-one product, that's what you
oil.
have to have. Yeah, it's so good. Now, Amy Connolly.
Of course, had to talk about it. So it's a recent launch. It is flying off shelves. Cannot keep it in stock, so she says. So this is the Satin Silk, Satin Silk, going to get in trouble from her now.
Satin Silk Long Wear Foundation.
Perfect. So this is a product that she actually created the name of before she created the product because she knew she wanted a kind of medium to fuller coverage. She wanted it to look satin, look kind of skin-like, but you could build it. So for example, on a Wednesday, I might want to use it and just look like I have got a little bit of foundation on. Same product on a Saturday, build it up to look like I have got my heavy going out, let's say, inverted commas product.
Okay.
30 shades, which I think is phenomenal. Absolutely needed. She is trailblazing it, and there's always going to be skin ingredients in there as well. So she has her hyaluronic and her vitamin B3, which is a really important
Fair play to her. That's amazing.
But it
30
doesn't feel like
different tones is incredible, isn't it?
It's huge. And she's right. She's absolutely right. But if you put it onto your hand, it really doesn't look like you're... When you hear full or building coverage, you think sticky, you think heavy, you think it looks deadpan. It doesn't. It literally lives up to the name. It is satin. It's a beautiful dewy finish. It doesn't feel like you're wearing very heavy coverage, yet you're getting it.
Arms, I see now.
I don't want to know about her holiday.
Right, let's talk about hydrating cream.
Yes, this is the Ven Tolerance range. The Tolerance range is one that's renowned for really helping like irritated and skin that needs to kind of be minded, a bit of TLC. But this is their newest launch. It's quite clever. It's a Tolerance 10 because it has only 10 ingredients in it. Now, when your skin is sensitive and irritated, which this time of the year it can be even more so, it's quite important that you only put quite gentle ingredients on it. So in here is only 10 active ingredients that are really all about soothing and calming, and it actually clinically keeps the skin hydrated for 48 hours. I like the idea.
Oh, there you go. We're putting that in. And the next one that we have here?
Hair mask.
So this is your anti-dandruff exfoliating and treating powder mask with galangal, which is essentially a spice.
That's a mouthful.
No, I love it all. As someone with dandruff, tell me more. What's going on?
I know. So you've been really honest and open about this. And do you know what, Muireann? I think dandruff is a conversation that we should talk about so much more. Because if you've like, say, Tommy, you get dryness in your beard, you just tend to talk about it openly. Whereas dandruff, unfortunately, people tend to be quite dubious about opening up about it.
Oh, yeah, I totally have dandruff.
And there's so many studies who say that like 70 to 80% of people feel, unfortunately, less attractive when they dandruff. They won't talk about it. So the studies with this is that essentially there's 89% less itching when you use this. So essentially, it's a little powder. You open up the sachet, put it into wet hands, rub it into your hair, leave it on for about 10 minutes as a mask, and then rinse it off. So you use this 2 or 3 times a week for about a month. That's what's inside this little box here, 8 sachets. And then you go back to a maintenance program of the shampoo thereafter. But that ingredient is antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and so 73% of people believe that dandruff, it'll actually help with the itching and the irritation of dandruff.
People will try anything. People have tried so much, so thank you for bringing that in.
And you've got some Nooks
I would like you to put it on, right? So this is Nooks, it's the Rêve de Miel honey. It's beautiful. So if you think about honey, what honey is known for is anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, and extremely hydrating. So this is the from Provence range in Italy. It's the lavender.
Nailed it.
PGI honey, but extremly hydrating. And look, your lips just look dewy, really fresh.
Jen Farrock,
really powerful
the
product.
skin nerd, as always. Wow, what a range of products.
Thank you, Jen.
So much.
God, she's so good.
Coming up on Wednesday's Ireland Day, Strictly Come Dancing, Judge Anton Dubek is going to be chatting to us.
I love him. And from the Irish stage to a galaxy far, far away, actor Stanley Townsend chats about his latest role in the Star Wars series.
It's been a fun old day. We'll see you tomorrow. Have fun.
Thank you.